is OTB Sports Radio.
7:30 Friday morning. Good morning to you. Owen, how are you getting on?
Very well, how are you?
What's the crack?
Not much now.
Got the hottest tickets in town in my hand, right here. The Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Heineken at the Galmont Hotel.
Great location.
You're all over this.
Great city.
What's the guest list?
I have no idea.
This is going to be on the 11th, Wednesday the 11th of December. We're off to Galway and we've got an unbelievable lineup of guests on, as always, as you know at these shows. We've got Brian O'Driscoll. We've got Will Greenwood. I don't know if I'm supposed to say the next guest or not. It has been fully confirmed or announced. Definitely been fully confirmed. My cat is going to be there.
Oh, right. Okay. I'm genuinely surprised that you managed to pull off such a guest list. Congratulations.
Will Greenwood, he's not. Couldn't give a shite about Brian O'Driscoll. Whatever. My cat, though.
The thing is, I guess my cat's not on the list, which has been told in my ear. Is that...
Well, he is now. Yeah, there's that. There's also Andy Friend. People who are watching can see the screen. Tiernan O'Halloran going to be there, obviously, a local show.
I've got no gripe with Will Greenwood. It's just that I will hold my hands up and say I have listened to the podcast quite a bit, especially in the lead up to the World Cup.
Right.
Will Greenwood. So it's kind of normalised in my ears. You know, it happens, doesn't it?
Richard's version of him as well. Sort
Richard's
of kind of quasi-Irish.
Impression is unbelievable of Will Greenwood.
And also the opportunity to see how Cyril Farrell gets on in all this company.
He will probably be the shining light in a cast of lights, actually. We've seen him at a roadshow before. I think it was Roisin Dove in 2014-15, and he was just absolutely outstanding. I can remember him kind of rocking up. He wasn't on in the early section of the show, so he came in midway through the show.
Yeah.
Kind of stood there almost, not frowning at the stage, but sort of surveying everything in front of him. Quizzical. Yeah. And what was happening in front of him was a brilliant roadshow. Joe was doing it, and it was really, really funny. And then Cyril stepped up, and it just went to a whole new level. And he was like, step aside, amateurs. This is how you do a live audience. He's hilarious, he's brilliant, he's charismatic, he's got fantastic stories to tell. That's a good roadshow, so genuine, well done to whoever actually booked those guests.
Yeah, definitely coming together nicely. So that's the 11th of December. The reason I mentioned that, Owen, is that I do have a load of tickets here in my hand for it, but we are going to give away a pair this morning for... What's coming up later on? Can you best describe what we're going to do later on?
The section that we're doing after 9 o'clock this morning is Ireland's most memorable sports moment of the decade.
Right, of the 2010s.
Yes, that is the decade that we just had.
We're all going to get into the studio. Yourself, myself, Nathan and Ger, and we're going to debate what accounts for the best sporting moment. And then we're going to
Crystal Ball Gang.
Throw it open to the throw it open to the public.
Exactly, that's what's going to happen. So we're going to whittle down the countless amounts of great Irish sports moments, memorable Irish sports moments from the last 10 years and put them to a public vote, World Cup style format, last 16, going to be drawn this morning. Going to do it over the next 2 weeks, I suppose. Tomorrow, 2 weeks, or today, 2 weeks, I should say. 3 weeks' time. Because we're going to do it for like 15 working days, weekday working days.
Cream the shit out of it is what we're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And then come the middle to end of December, we're going to have a winner. Some things may pop to mind that will definitely be on the list. The certain things that won't pop to anybody's mind might also make the list.
One particularly, I understand. So, yeah, it's the challenge with these things is always kind of getting the name. We've been debating over the last few days about what it should actually be called, because it's the difficulty of calling it something like, for which was debated for a while, the most iconic sporting moment of the decade, which rules out all the, I suppose, what one might describe as the negative side of things. Right, like you're never going to vote for... You're probably not going to vote for Michael Conlon having a rant after losing out in Rio as the most iconic, because iconic comes with a lot of positive connotations.
That picture right there might be the most iconic sports photograph of the entire decade. In fact, it is the most iconic sports photograph of the entire decade. His interview is the most iconic interview of the entire sports decade.
The interview, yeah. You see,
how many people would be able to name the amount of boxing opponents faced by Irish boxers throughout the decade?
I know.
Nikitin is certainly up there. And we're talking Andy Lee's professional career here. We're talking Katie Taylor's amateur and professional career here. We're talking Conlon's amateur and professional career here. Frampton. Like, Nikitin is right up there. Like,
and he went on to do so well over the rest of the tournament as well.
Well, that's the point. He's a relative nobody in comparison to the big name fights that we remember from the last 10 years. That moment has everything. It's not a good moment in terms of Ireland winning or being successful, but we need to get past the idea that a successful thing is an iconic thing. For me, Michael Conlon has a great chance of winning this.
It's a fair point. I'm on board with you. The interview was actually, like, how many times have we seen that happened to sports people, right? Maybe not to that absolute extreme where it was so bloody obvious what had just happened, but that the proponent comes out and says, well, listen, the result just didn't go my way, it really should have done, I'm going to refocus now, I'm going to knuckle down, get back to it for the next 4 years. And he just came out and he was angry as all hell at the start of the interview, clearly, and was saying himself, I know I'm ranting now, I don't know what I'm saying, I know I'm cursing live on TV, but I don't care. And he went from that over the space of about a minute and a half with Evander Quillen to on the brink of tears at the end of it. It was such a sort of moment that you're, in one regard, sort of looking through your fingers at. I watched it totally out of context, maybe not the first time I've seen it since the actual fight, but when you watch the fight and then you watch it, you're like, well, that makes total sense. But when you watch it out of context, it's a powerful interview. So that features.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's the context is an interesting thing to bring up. How important is the context when it comes to looking at that Michael Conlon incident? Because I think you're actually bang on. You can remove the context entirely from it and just take that one bout and that one interview, and it's this amazing thing that you just seen, a brilliant piece of television. But then if you add the context onto it, it just becomes epic, like the boxing failings of that.
And the impact that it's had actually is the thing, right? Because I do believe that it's had an impact on, even up to this week, was it they were talking about the transparency of the counting of the judges now is going to be seen.
Yeah.
So you're going to know between rounds in a way that's never happened before.
Tokyo.
You can see a thread between this rant against the, as he said, from the core right up to the very top, and the impact that had. So it was great. But yeah, we've had a lot of debates about various aspects of this, and more of that to come a little bit later on. But the naming of it is very important, on.
Hugely important. So memorable. Yeah. Memorable is the adjective we're using to describe.
So you have that now for when we get into it later on. That's the title of it.
Yes, 100%. I definitely won't fudge the intro.
That's great. We have a pair of tickets. If you've got your sporting moment of the decade, most memorable sporting moment of the decade, better get that right. We have a couple of tickets to give away, so we're going to pluck one lucky winner before now and the end of the show at about 9:30. So whatever it might be, you've been hearing some of the sort of parameters that are on the debate, which are pretty much nothing. So highs, lows, whatever it might be, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. We'll bring those to our audience over the course of a couple of hours, and the best one is going to win themselves a pair of tickets for that show in Galway. Just make sure you'll be able to be in Galway on December the 11th, or we'll have to start ripping them up live on screen, and we don't want to be doing that.
I like that cultural reference. Darragh O'Toole has been in touch to ask, why is Adrian Barry bringing his cat to the Galway Roadshow? You said my cat is the Galway Roadshow. Thank you, Darragh. This is the sort of stuff we're looking for.
You are in the running
2 hours.
already for those tickets. Possibly not. Right, it's 7:38 on this Friday morning. We're delighted that you're with us here on OTB AM, the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. And do keep your comments coming into us. Here's what's happening over the next couple of hours. We're going to get you stuck into the back pages in just a couple of moments' time, let you know some reaction there, obviously, to the Europa League last night, and plenty more as well. Besides, we're going to talk football in the company of Kenny Cunningham. It was an interesting week, obviously, in Europe. And we may also get Kenny's thoughts on what his most memorable football moment of the 2010s was. We're also going to talk to him about the Premier League, obviously an interesting weekend ahead. We're going to talk to Alan Quillen, who's in studio at about 9:20 this morning, and a few bits and bobs to get into there, including the exclusive in the Telegraph this morning that Conor O'Shea has been, will be confirmed, I should say, as the new performance director is the title for his new role at the RFU. He was in with the lads yesterday, wasn't giving too much away, but the Telegraph saying this morning performance director will be his title. Get Quinny's thoughts on that. Happenings at Munster and Connacht as well, a few more things to get into Quinny about there too. The Ireland's MMM OTD coming your way at 9 o'clock this morning. That's our chat about the most memorable moment of the decade, of the 2010s, and all through it we do want to hear from you, but right now we're going to kick things off with the newspapers.
OTB AM.
Now, here's what's going on. What were you saying to me, Tommy?
No, he's talking to me.
Right. Right, okay. This is information that our audience definitely do not need to know. The Irish Daily Star is where we're going to start at 7:40 on this crisp Friday morning. And a lot of reaction, obviously, to the Europa League last night. United kids must man up. Writes Jeremy Cross here after Astana 2, Manchester United 1. A few other bits and bobs here as well. Down here, an exclusive from Paul Lennon, long haul tactics. This is the news that the FAI President Donald Conway has absolutely no plans to step aside. He said that he is an interim FAI board member, and he's 4 to 5 months into that term, and he's got a 12-month partnership to go, and he's going to stick with it. So that's the news there. Obviously on the back of the fact that Shane Ross has reacted to the report from Cozy that we have yet to see the details of, and we will see more of that, I'm absolutely certain, over the coming weeks. But that's an exclusive there from Paul Lennon. And also a good line here from Paul Keane, that's in some of the papers, about the Dub Zone. They're set for a novel trip to Tullamore for the opening round of next year's Leinster Championship. Leinster Council Chiefs pencilled in the home of Offaly GAA for Dublin's quarter-final clash against Westmeath. So it ain't going to Mullingar, it's off to Tullamore.
Tullamore, one of the most underrated match towns in the country.
I don't understand. I know this came up 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and there was various people from Westmeath saying that the game should be in Mullingar. I don't fully understand why it isn't.
Neither do I, but it's a great day out for the Dubs, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
But it should be it really should be a Mullingar from every level. Like, I'm struggling to think. The thing will be that it's supposed to be a neutral venue, but
yeah,
I mean,
the
of all the
teams
always to be discussing about neutral venues, given that they play every game in Croke Park, it's ludicrous beyond the pale. And I think that I also don't think that Dublin would have an issue with it. I'd say they'd just say, "Great, let's go."
Certainly, they wouldn't have an issue with it. But just because the Croke Park thing is wrong doesn't necessarily make the Mullingar thing right.
Two wrongs make it right, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think Tullamore's great fitty for a match, and it'll be. Has they penciled the date yet? A good summer Saturday evening in Tullamore is
it'll
great.
take place on May 23rd, 24th.
Right, so not to be decided yet.
And then,
the Irish Sun with the FAI in the front. Crime found in FAI review. It's triple byline inside. Adam Higgins, Owen Cowser, and Neil Cotter. Squeaky bum time for FAI is their headline inside. A volume of evidence sees cops struggling. Defiant FAI say cash used as intended. The Taoiseach says that they should show the report to the public. So the cops are probing an independent audit of the FAI's financial affairs and are demanding extra resources to properly investigate transactions at the scandal-hit Football Association. The back of the Sun, meanwhile, is get your coat. Emery faces sack as Gunners humiliated. Chong so sorry for a miss. His miss, of course, to Heath Chong. Not allowed, but he was right in front of goal. Should have buried it at 1-0 to Manchester United. And Astana go up the pitch and score their equaliser and then go on to win the game. I'll give my best to Tottenham then, says Mauricio Pochettino. He's spoken for the first time since he was sacked as Spurs boss.
I Get Me Coat is the back page of the Daily Mirror this morning, and the story here from John Cross. New jacket, but same old Emery. He faces the sack as winless streak stretches now to 7. This is definitely one we're keeping a very keen eye on. Unai Emery last night cut a pretty forlorn figure. Although there wasn't that many people there to actually see what happened, is probably the plus side for him. There was a lot of empty seats at that game last night. Tullamore due. This is obviously that same story again, but a good headline. Dublin heading to Offaly to get the summer underway. That's the back page of the Mirror this morning.
The Herald says Ross ups ante in war on FAI. The Minister says no state funds except for women's team. And then a picture of an angry-looking Granit Xhaka there as Arsenal go down to Eintracht Frankfurt 2-1 at the Emirates Stadium last night. We've been going through this all week, and the Herald have been writing about their 50 best Dubs players of the millennium.
All right.
Today is the top 10. Do you want to have a guess at who's going to make the cut?
Who's the top 10 Dublin footballers of all time?
Millennium, of this millennium. So obviously, naturally, a lot from this decade.
Cluxton, Brogan, Connolly. I mean, it's.
So who are you going for number 1 here?
You're going to Stephen Cluxton.
Stephen Cluxton is number 1 from the Herald. So I'll go through the top 10.
B. Brogan number 2?
No. Sorry, Bernard Brogan's number 4. Bernard Brogan's 4, yeah. So I actually didn't expect this player to be number 2.
It's hard. You see, again, we're into parameters here. Is it the impact they've had on Dublin? Like, because you probably put Dermot Connolly in there just on.
Dermot Connolly didn't even make the top 10.
Wow.
Yeah,
so it's not like the most talented.
We've like that would certainly spring to mind.
Most memorable Dublin team.
Dean Rock is number 10. Paul Flynn is number 9. Keane O'Sullivan is number 8. Kieran Kilkenny is number 7. Alan Brogan is at 6. Jack McCaffrey's at 5. Bernard Brogan's at 4. Brian Fenton is number 3. James McCarthy is number 2.
All right.
Stephen Cluxton number 1. Like, you can't.
That's one for the hardcore.
Well, you can't really begrudge James McCarthy his number 2 slot here. Like, he's been an ever-present. He's been one of the best centre backs we've ever seen, or certainly I've ever seen. So you can't really begrudge him. And Cluxton at 1. I'm more with the Fenton McCaffrey side of things here, that they'd be my top 2 Dublin players that I've seen in this millennium. But
I would lean that way. Like, that's why I'm saying it's one for the traditionalists, that like McCarthy is a guy who gets through a lot of work that isn't necessarily the sort of star, not always like the Stardust type player, I suppose. He's
got a lot of Stardust as well, though.
Yeah.
I think he's got a bit of everything, to be honest with you. which I always say all those Dublin players, they just have a bit of everything.
Everything. The Irish Examiner this morning is a photograph of John Myler here. Red regret. Myler admits that Cork never recovered from the Limerick heartbreak. He talks about the success that he had as well and his time obviously in charge of the Cork hurlers over the last few years, winning the Munster Championship in 18, having won it in 2017, and back it up specifically is the main point on that. More on that inside. Ronan O'Gara, why is that wonky ball going anywhere except where it's told? Some thoughts inside from Ronan O'Gara. I'm actually, having read some of this, not 100% sure what that's all about, but there is reflections on Joe Schmidt inside and reflections on where Lara Shell are at as well, obviously, in terms of the Champions Cup after a couple of defeats for them over the first couple of rounds, and also has his thoughts inside on that sending off in that game last night. Reckons that, or last weekend, reckons that if the sending off hadn't happened, if it remained 15v15, they could have won it, and why not, he says. So that's the Irish Examiner for you this morning.
The London Times this morning goes with a harsh headline on Unai Emery, perhaps not too harsh. Pathetic loss leaves Emery on the brink. Arsenal slumping to their longest winless run since 1992 at a half-empty Emirates. Football invented around the same time that Arsenal went on their last losing run or winless run like this. Butler ruled out as England rely on rookies. It's a sad state of affairs really now at the Emirates Stadium, isn't it? It's just...
How do you feel?
Empty.
Really?
I felt empty.
Like the stadium.
Felt empty for quite... Yeah, exactly, like the stadium. It felt empty for quite some time now, but I just don't...
Regression, is that the general sense of things from Arsenal fans, that there's
There's regression now. It's not...
Yeah.
There was a lack of progression for a long, long time, and then this is clearly regression. They're going backwards, and there was just a lack of effort. The two goals really kind of sum up Arsenal's performance last night. The old problem they used to have against the likes of Bolton Wanderers, not getting to the second ball. But if you're not going to get to the second ball, at least, realise that you're getting paid 100 grand a week and run towards the opposition player who's in possession of the ball inside your own box and may actually put that ball in the back of your net. That might be a good idea sometimes.
Let's make it look like
the players are as culpable here as the manager is. They put in a pathetic performance last night, and they should be embarrassed of themselves. But Unai Emery is going to be the man, the fall guy here. You feel sorry for him a little bit, but also he's a terrible manager. So.
Done Out here on YouTube says, any word on Emery, seeing as you titled it, which was their live stream on YouTube, Emery out, pure clickbaiting. I think that if you look at most of the newspapers this morning, Done Out here, including the Irish Daily Mail, there's a little sign there that says Emery out, and there was lots of them at the ground last night, so I don't know if they're quite sort of on the money with that one, but happy to get your comment. You're definitely in the running for the tickets. Done Out here after that comment. Fans demand Emery acts as Arsenal slump. This is their defeat at home to Eintracht Frankfurt last night. They
managed 11 shots in the game last night
right.
At home. They managed 12 shots against Southampton at the weekend.
Wow.
That's probably it's hard to actually pick what's your favourite statistic from the week, but certainly Southampton having 21 shots to Arsenal's 12 last week at the Emirates Stadium was one of my favourite ones.
It's a slot right there. The other story here from the Daily Mail is that Philip Quinn is writing that the government, FAI's state aid, says the headline, government's 100 grand bailout for association. This relates to Shane Ross committing to give €100,000 to the Republic of Ireland women's team so that they can properly prepare, as Philip Quinn writes, for their Euro 2021 qualifiers at home to Greece and away to Montenegro in March. So I suppose proof that when the rules can be bent a little bit for the greater good, then they're happy to do that, but obviously not lifting the overall sanction that the government have on the FAI on the back of that, most specifically and especially on the back of that COSI report that looks as if it's headed down the legal route. So the women's team are to be bailed out there, and Dublin start 6-in-a-row bid in Tullamore.
The Guardian this morning goes with another picture there of Unai Emery. Limp Arsenal put Emery on the brink. Pressure intensifies on the manager after a defeat on a night when Xhaka returns and thousands of fans stay away from the Emirates. And time for answers. UK Athletics faces review over handling of Salazar scandals. There's a lot going on with UK Athletics at the moment. They've announced a review into whether the mistakes were made in its handling of the Alberto Salazar scandal, and especially its decision to clear Mo Farah to continue training at the Nike Oregon project after concerns were raised about the coach in 2015. So they've got their own independent review going on, and John Mirzad is going to lead that. Salazar, of course, banned for 4 years in October for orchestrating and facilitating prohibited doping conduct. So he's going to appeal that, he says. But UK Athletics, in the meantime, are launching an independent inquiry into their handling of the whole thing.
And the front page of the Guardian as well is sports of sorts. So who was to blame? Fury of the Hillsborough families. You can see the reaction there to the news yesterday that David Duckenfield isn't going to face any further action on this. He's been cleared of manslaughter, and the families voicing outrage at the not guilty verdict was very much the theme of proceedings yesterday from Preston, and again plenty more reaction from that as they referred to the 95 people, as they were referring to 96 obviously, including those who passed away after the day who were fatally injured on that day at Hillsborough. So the reaction to that continues, and it's the constant conflict obviously for these families between dealing with the unthinkable grief that they would have gone through over the last number of years about that entire thing, and obviously wanting to hold somebody account for it. And then yet another day I did see one quote from one of the it might in fact have been Margaret Aspinall, who's the chair of the Hillsborough Family Support Group, saying that it was the darkest day since the tragedy itself, which because there's been a constant beat of news stories and events around it. For certainly people like myself who are looking on, it's a line like that that gives you the significance and the resonance of the decision yesterday in Preston. So,
yeah, I don't think they were best pleased as well with what they perceived to be how favourably Duckenfield was spoken about by the judge and things like that. Just
poor chap at one point he was referred to when he had to go off to take some sort of ill leave. The feeling that it was a bizarre sort of leaning, appearing to be a positive leaning in his favour. Unusual language, to say the least. Let's move on. The Irish Times this morning, the front page of the sports section here is a photograph of Conor O'Shea with the new headgear that he's involved with. Is he just on board as an ambassador for that, or was he involved at the production of it?
Ambassador, I think.
Ambassador, yeah.
But I'm sure, I know for a fact that he's obviously looked a lot into it, has huge interest in how World Rugby are trying to tackle head injuries. Can't
imagine he's the sort of guy to just lash his name on something and not actually know what he's doing. So he was in yesterday talking about that and how the technology of headgear has moved on from just being essentially just a bit of a loose kind of a case on your head to protect your ears to something that actually properly protects your brain. But O'Shea believes CAT will help mould Ireland into winning combination. There's a story here from Johnny Watterson in the Irish Times this morning, and that's obviously the story around Mike CAT. Great positivity seems to be the general thing there. Increased evidence of a stifling conformity in rugby coaching is Matt Williams' thoughts there, and more rugby beneath best to captain Barbarians as Gatland says farewell.
Telegraph this morning, the sports section leads with empty feeling. End looms for Emery after Arsenal crashed Germans at a half-full Emirates. And King Conor O'Shea gets key role as England look to World Cup 2023. Key line in this, in terms of Conor O'Shea's new role with the RFU, is that he's not going to be Eddie Jones's boss.
Going to work with him, not over him.
Significantly, the appointment will not affect the line management of England head coach Eddie Jones, who will continue to report to Bill Sweeney, as will O'Shea, although the pair are expected to work closely together to begin planning for the 2023 World Cup in France.
How do you think that conversation went when they sat down with Eddie and said, listen, I'm going to appoint this new guy. What are you thinking? Any thoughts about where he fits into things? Don't care, mate. Just not above me, mate.
I wonder how long it'll take before he gives Conor O'Shea the mate treatment. Because
everybody's
that's
mate.
when you know you're
you mean
screwed.
the disdainful?
Oh, is mate never not a disdainful thing?
From him, there's very few utterances that aren't disdainful.
You're not a big fan of Eddie Jones?
No, I think he's. I mean, what?
Has he not whitewashed his image somewhat during the World Cup? No.
No, I know why he comes up with all this nonsense. Like the Patchell thing is the one that always stands out for me. The Six Nations last year, where he just got really personal and needlessly. I mean, he wouldn't say it's needless, but just really personal with him, trying to unnerve him. Whatever, it was like his Six Nations debut and all that stuff. I just think it's classless. I know he does it. He's obviously trying to put the opposition on edge. Get all that. Just not to be such a prick about it.
What if he was Ireland coach and he was doing
I'd love
that?
him. I think he's fantastic.
Oh, there you go.
But he nearly got the boot, obviously, last year was the other thing. And then suddenly it all turns out Millhouse. I don't know where to start with the Irish Independent on. There's a Black Friday ad at the back of it, so there's no actual. It's not like, they normally get the leaf and then it's then you go inside, here's my actual paper. It's actually the back page of the paper, so I don't really know where to go. There's loads of sport in the Irish Independent this morning.
Are you going to indulge in some Black Friday action?
No, I was watching Virgin Media last night, and the head of Consumer something, David Jewell, was on, Dermot Jewell, and he was saying that stay away from Black Friday, particularly in relation to vouchers. There's new legislation coming in about vouchers on. You probably won't be aware of this.
No, I'm not aware of
the
this.
next 3 or 4 days. So currently, if you own a company, own Sheehan Limited, and you're selling vouchers for your company, you get to decide whether that voucher shelf life is like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And there's very little that, probably some little bits, but very little you can do as a consumer to, if I come to you after 12 months with my voucher, you are entitled to say, well, listen, sorry, it's out of date, and so your 50 quid is gone. Whereas they're bringing in legislation now in the next 3 or 4 days, and that's why he was saying hold tight. That will actually mean that you've got legally 5 years to spend your voucher, which I think is great. Somebody who gets vouchers and several years later regularly looks at them going, oh shit, haven't done anything with this, and it's probably gone out of date.
You've just turned my world upside down. Racing Post this morning is Black Friday for bookies. Stayers Hurdle, King Paisley Park and Ace Novice Chaser Champ could make it a dark day for the Layers at Newbury. And back page of the Racing Post is taking a liberty. In-form Fulham can escape Swansea's nest with all 3 points. Swansea against Fulham is a 7:45 kick-off tonight. Yeah, well, thank you for that. I was I can't really focus on anything else now, thinking about all the vouchers I'm going to buy in 4 days' time.
I mean, it's definitely a point that I've arrived in life, but I'm buzzing for it.
Is buying vouchers not a cop-out for Christmas? Buying vouchers for Christmas not a cop-out?
Depends, you see. You have multifaceted relationships on, as I'm sure you'll be acutely aware of. There'll be those who are close to you that I think getting a voucher for would
Not
deserve
got very binary relationships.
a punch in the head.
Yeah.
And then there are other people that you think you should get them something, but you're not quite sure what to get them, and you think that they'd be better off to make that decision themselves. I think getting the voucher's all right. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a step up from just giving them hard cash.
Oh, without question.
You've put some effort, a bit of thought into it. You get to write something nice.
Yeah. Like if you're as bad as buying gifts at me, you might actually pick the wrong shop to buy a voucher.
Have you done your Christmas shopping?
No, it's November.
Yeah. End of November. It's almost December.
It is almost December.
Toy show's on tonight.
Toy show is on tonight, and I'm hyped. Are you you were slagging off the toy show before we came on air, which I'm not having, to be quite honest with you.
I feel like you're painting me as the Grinch here by saying that I'm slagging off the toy show. I understand the charm to it. I enjoyed it endlessly as a kid.
It's the most important television event.
Who is your favourite toy show presenter on?
Pat Kenny.
Well, really?
Yeah, without question.
Right. Is that because you're on air with him every week and you have to say that?
Yeah, well, no, I probably do have to say it'd be genuinely my favourite toy show. I'd be a big
above Gay Byrne, who was like the originator of the thing.
I don't remember Gay Byrne presenting the Late Toy
but
show.
You can watch it. You can watch
it back.
Footage.
No, I would. I think Tuberty's fantastic toy show presenter. I think.
So he's fantastic. So what's Pat Kenny?
Unbelievable. Pat Kenny presenting the Late Toy Show was the television event of the year because it was just completely out of his comfort zone. It was amazing.
Wow.
It's like me presenting the Late Algebra Show. It's just like what is going on here?
What is this?
Yeah,
maths not your thing, is that right?
Not maths are not my thing.
I'm going to give a plug for a shop in Stillorgan that I recently discovered was the genesis of the RTE Late Late Show. So they decided to do an item at some point on the Late Late Show around Christmas time. And somebody who worked on the show, what did I say?
Late Late Show in general.
Toy show. Somebody who worked on the show thought, there's a shop up the road, we'll go and get some toys from them. And it was from that they went out and they thought, this shop is unbelievable. We could do loads with all this stuff. And that's where the toy show came from. It's Nimble Fingers in Stillorgan, and it's, to this day, a brilliant shop for kids.
Right, must.
You'll have no need to go there, Owen.
I said I was going. I must.
You'll have absolutely no need to go there, but for people who do,
thank you for the plug.
It's brilliant. A few comments in. Neil Murphy says Robbie Brady's goal, BS, I presume, versus Unai Emery is texting us here against Italy. Are Ireland beating New Zealand in Soldier Field for me?
It says somebody else. Yeah.
Neil, yeah. Jeff Tucker. MMOTD, it should be OTB AM MMOTD.
He's right, he is right. That is the hashtag you can get us on this morning.
Izzle Cody, morning to Izzle, says surely there needs to be a Shane Ross sports moment of the decade. He's given enough material in his tenure. Hashtag OTB AM. I mean, it's fair. You could just do a top 10 of his moments. Generally, him tweeting from the Aviva or at various grounds that he's not 100% sure what he's at with his jocks hanging out. I think any one of those.
Shane Ross shadowing Katie Taylor is probably up there.
That could be the top one.
Shane Ross and Patrick Hugh taking a photo with Annalise Murphy after winning a silver medal is up there. And Shane Ross with Hot Dog last month is up there as well.
What was that at?
the Ireland-Denmark game.
Oh, yeah. And also tweeting like sort of an hour after things have happened with the wrong tweet.
No, what am I talking about? Shane Ross, dominant Puspur is the moment of the decade. Can't believe we recorded this segment and we're forgetting about dominant Puspur.
It wouldn't have been in the top 16. There's some discussion though. Right, it's just gone 8 o'clock on this Friday morning. Keep your comments coming into us. We have a pair of tickets for the best comment of the morning with your most memorable moment of the decade. That's MMM OTD for you this morning. The best comment of this morning is going to win themselves a pair of tickets to our roadshow at the Galmont Hotel in Galway next month. You need to be there on Wednesday, need to be able to be there on Wednesday, the 11th of December. You can also get tickets up on offtheball.com/events, so get yourself along there. But best comment of the morning, going to win themselves a pair of tickets. 8 a.m. on Friday morning. You're watching OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. We're going to talk football next on the show. Kenny Cunningham is going to join us, and we're going to be hearing from John Giles next.